You feel it most when the room is full. Not when you are alone. Not when it is quiet. You feel it when the laughter is loud and the people are close, and somehow, in the middle of all of it, something hollow opens up inside your chest. Sound familiar? The real answer to why that happens is not what you have been told. It is not about being introverted. It is not about social anxiety. It is not about you being broken in some way. It goes back much further than that. It goes back to a version of you that lived in a world where that feeling could save your life. Here is the part nobody tells you about loneliness. It is not an emotion. It is a signal. And your brain has been sending it since long before you were born. Psychologist John Cacioppo spent over 20 years studying loneliness at the University of Chicago. What he found turned everything researchers thought they knew upside down. Loneliness, he discovered, is not caused by being alone. It is caused by feeling unseen. And those are not the same thing at all. Think about that for a moment. You can be surrounded by 100 people and feel completely invisible. You can be sitting alone in a quiet room and feel deeply connected to something larger than yourself. The number of bodies around you is almost irrelevant. What your brain is actually measuring is something far more precise. It is measuring whether anyone in that room would notice if you disappeared. This is called social threat detection. It means your brain is constantly, quietly running a scan. Not for danger in the environment. For danger in the group. Because for your ancestors, being cut off from the group was not an inconvenience. It was a death sentence. 50,000 years ago, a human alone was a human dead. No shelter built fast enough. No fire lit in time. No warning when the predator came from the left. The group was survival. The group was everything. And so your brain evolved a system, an alarm, specifically designed to warn you when your place in the group felt uncertain. That alarm is what you feel in a crowded room when no one is really talking to you. Cacioppo and his colleagues found that the brains of lonely people are measurably different in how they process the world around them. They are not less social. They are hypervigilant. The lonely brain scans every face faster. It picks up on micro-expressions other brains miss. It flags neutral situations as potentially hostile. It is not shutting down. It is running too hot, searching for a threat that may not exist in the way the brain thinks it does. And here is where it gets interesting. This hypervigilance was never meant to be permanent. In the ancestral world, the alarm would fire, you would feel the ache, you would take action, you would move closer to someone in the group, you would repair the bond, and the signal would quiet down. The pain was brief. It was functional. It told you exactly what to do. But here is the twist. In the modern world, the alarm keeps firing and there is no tribe to repair the bond with. You are surrounded by strangers who follow the same social rules you do. You smile. They smile. Nobody says what they actually mean. And your brain, which is still running the 50,000-year-old software, cannot tell the difference between a crowded party and social exile. It sounds like connection. But your ancient brain reads it as abandonment. Researcher Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA took this one step further. She put participants inside a brain scanner and had them play a simple ball-tossing game with two other players. Partway through, the other players stopped throwing the ball to them. They were excluded. Socially left out of a meaningless game. The brain region that lit up was the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. The same region that processes physical pain. Being left out of a ball-tossing game activated the same neural circuitry as being burned. Your brain does not have a separate system for social pain and physical pain. It uses the same one. Because in the ancestral world, those two things always arrive together. Being wounded meant being slowed down. Being slowed down meant falling behind the group. Falling behind the group meant dying alone. Social rejection hurt physically. Because physically, it was dangerous. And you are still carrying that wiring in your head right now. Have you ever felt your chest tighten at a party where you did not know anyone? Have you ever scrolled through photographs of other people having fun and felt something sharp and irrational, something almost like grief? That was not weakness. That was a 50,000-year-old survival program running exactly as designed, in a world it was never built for. Think about the last time you felt truly seen. Not liked. Not included. Seen. Someone understood what you actually meant, not just what you said. The relief you felt in that moment was not just emotional. It was biological. Cacioppo's research showed that meaningful social connection directly lowers cortisol levels, reduces inflammatory markers, and extends life expectancy more reliably than exercise. Your body knows the difference between being in the room and being in the group. The loneliness you feel in a crowd is not a malfunction. It is your brain doing its job with the precision of an instrument tuned to a world that no longer exists. It is scanning for belonging. It is looking for the signal that says you matter to someone here, that if you vanished, someone would look up. And in a room full of acquaintances and strangers performing connection, it cannot find that signal. The next time you feel it, the hollow ache in the middle of a full room, notice what your brain is actually asking. It is not asking for more people. It is asking for depth. It is asking for the one thing that modern life is extraordinarily good at simulating and extraordinarily bad at providing. It is asking to be known. Researcher Robert Weiss, who first mapped the architecture of loneliness in the 1970s, made a distinction that most people never hear. He separated loneliness into two types. Social loneliness, the absence of a network. And emotional loneliness, the absence of a close bond. You can solve social loneliness by going to a party. You cannot solve emotional loneliness by doing the same thing. They are different aches. They require different remedies. That is why you can spend an evening surrounded by people and come home feeling emptier than when you left. That is why the most connected generation in human history, more followers, more contacts, more platforms, more messages than any humans who ever lived, is also the loneliest on record. The platform gave you the room. It did not give you the tribe. One day you will think back on a moment from this period of your life. Not a party. Not an event. A quiet afternoon with one person where something real was said. Something honest. Something that made you both go still for a second. You will not remember the 100 people at the party. You will remember that afternoon. And that is not a flaw in how you are wired. That is the exact mechanism your ancestors needed to survive. Not more people. The right people. A place inside the group where your absence would be noticed. You are still looking for that place. That is not loneliness as a weakness. That is loneliness doing exactly what it was built to do, pulling you towards something real, in a world that keeps offering you something that only looks like it.